And a lot of it determines whether you're going to be having deductions or not. And then the deductions changes the scenario. The industry tells us that they need capital expenditures. They need deductions for, if you're drilling in Prudhoe Bay, all you got to do is lift it out of the ground and plug it right in right there. If you're drilling 20 miles away, they need a credit for having to go 20 miles worth of pipe. So right now, I'm waiting for more to be coming in, and Representative Crawford is doing some heavy lifting on the gross to see actually what it is. In many ways, the industry tells us that their behavior, whether or not they're going to be drilling and developing, is based upon all these things. But on the other hand, all the international consultants in the bottom of the day will tell you none of that matters. The only thing that really matters is what the wellhead value is, what the product is on the market, maybe $6 a barrel now. All this other stuff is just free for them. But the local guys tell you that they just, that's what they're fighting.
So you don't think there's any problem treating all of the fields equally, not having different things factored in for the different fields and the cost involved on the different fields? You talk about the legacy fields.
Yeah, that for me muddies the question about going to a pure gross. We want that independent that's out there to develop that field that's 20 miles away. But one of the problems we have now is that they don't have access to the facilities. They can't bring that oil or gas right in and plug it in and sell it because facilities access is controlled by the producers. So one of the things I asked the administration is all of this bill, a lot of this bill is about the carrot. And giving them the carrot. Where's the stick? We all pay our taxes. If we don't pay it, we don't do something. We're going to give you a credit for an expansion of a field or a capital or an operating expense, and you don't develop it in 5 years or 20 years or some number, then what happens? I think we're giving away the farm if we don't have the stick of the carrot. Somebody else?
Randy Griffith, Randy. Just a bit ago, Guttenberg, you talked about the auditors that Sarah Palin would like to exempt so they can pay the highest salaries and they won't be locked in review and pay scales and such. And I appreciate you bringing that up. The Department of Revenue has been crying for exemptions on auditors, crying for auditors since way back in early 2006 when they introduced House Bill 485, and they wanted the forensic income tax auditors. I know you talked about this on the radio last time, but you voted against it. About all the Democrats except for one who killed that idea. Most of the Republicans voted for it, but there were a few Republicans such as Speaker of the House John Harris who also voted for the Democrats. Anyway, that's water under the bridge. Still need the auditors. Sarah Palin needs them to be exempted so we can hire enough qualified ones. Will you support Sarah Palin's idea to get the exemption, the auditors to exempt status or not? And I was curious how the others would feel on that.
Well, I'll tell you, the dialogue, I don't believe. I don't believe that they need to be exempt. I don't believe the unions, because this is part of what I hear, that I want to make sure that they are unionized employees. I think they need to pay them what they're worth. I think if you went to the unions and said, this is what we need to pay these guys as senior analysts, we need to pay them not the $79,000 at the state is at this level, or some other number twice that, because that's what we need. They're not going to say no. But that's really not the big issue for me. The big issue for me is I want to make sure that a senior analyst can come in and do an in-depth look, analysis of what they're doing, and say what they need, and not worry about their job, which is what happens if you're exempt. Under Murkowski, there was a major gag order. Under Palin, I think it's a whole lot more open. I think people will have to speak what they want. I don't know what the next administration is going to do. I don't know what the administration after that is going to do. But I want analysis, senior economic oil and gas analysis, auditor, to be able to look at those books and speak his mind without worrying about retribution from an administration or from a legislature. And that's what's important to me. The other issue on that, the amendment that we voted for didn't just have the oil and gas senior economic analysis, it also had pharmacists in it, and it had other people in it. And your dialogue was, we have to be able to pay them so that we could get there. Well, the state's doing an analysis of its work all the time and what it pays people. If you need to pay a pharmacist in the state another $25,000, I don't know why they need to be exempt. People like to be under collective bargaining agreement, and I don't know why those guys need to be exempt. Because you'll be able to pay them what you need to pay them to get them.
Well, thank you for that. In Title 39 of the Alaska statutes, there's all kinds of positions that are exempted, which I have a listing up here. But I assume, and the pharmacists are exempt, and state, the petroleum engineers, and a whole bunch of professional ones are exempt. So it's kind of strange that the Democrats went after this one thing when the Revenue Department has such a strong need to strike off the exemption status for the forensic auditors. But on the issue of just keeping them in the union and paying what you need, and I may be wrong, you know more about it, being maybe in the union and everything, but wouldn't the other fellow union members start squawking and say, well, if that group gets a high pay, we all want a high pay, isn't that the whole, isn't that?
And it's not a union issue. And if somebody's in this department over here and wants to apply for that job at that pay range, and they're qualified, I would encourage the administration to hire them because they're Alaska, and that's where I would go.
And bottom line is you, and I was curious about this, Senator Thomas and Representative Kawasaki, are you all going to fight and oppose Governor Palin's efforts to get these exempt auditors so we can get the auditors we need to comment all through on?
My experience with people that have exempt positions with political hires. Not necessarily hired for their expertise, but hired because of who they do. So I would maybe look at partial exemption, but I don't know that I would just say, oh, you're going to create a whole new class of people that are all exempt, and then when the next administration comes in, they just wipe them out because they don't like the theory on whether it's oil policy and or the information that's being put out or whatever it might be, and they voice objection to it. So I think that exempt positions, that's just my experience. And I wasn't there with the discussion you're talking about in the previous legislature, but I do know that the experience I've had so far is with people coming to me and saying, look at this individual is an exempt position. We want to get rid of this person or this position because it's not a qualified individual. You look at what the other people that they're even supervising have more qualifications than that particular individual because they were able to just hire them outside of any process other than just about this one person.
Right here.
Yeah, like I said, I agree with the Senator as well. It seems to me that most of the exempt positions that are in there are specific political appointments, and they're there because they're cronies. And I think that that's not what you want. You want people that are independent and going to think a different way and not afraid of getting fired just because it's simply the Commissioner of Revenue wants you to think a certain way. On the issue dealing with wages, David mentioned before, I have several friends that are my age, 30-ish or so, graduated from college, CPAs now, starting their careers doing accounting. And, they get 2 months off vacation a year, they get great benefits, great salaries, and come in and get flex time, and they're making a lot more than the beginning level CPA accountants were looking for the state of Alaska. I think that says something about the kind of quality of the community that we're attracting. We just recently changed 2006 to a different retirement system. I think that's a big hindrance to recruiting good quality candidates. And before we had some good benefits, pretty good benefits for